Hi, this is Zach here with the Bulletin Board Heroes here at Zach's Traders Cafe for Monday, the 9th of December. And starting off with the FTSE 100, which is bouncing off the old resistance, the old November resistance around 8,300, which is a plus, and looking for hopefully a break of the main 8,400 resistance there, which has blocked us since May. After that, best case is that we could hit up to 8,600 by the end of this month, by the end of 2024. On the downside, not expecting anything lower than the rising 50-day line at 82.30. We've also got the 200-day line rising, so I suppose we are in the run-up to a golden cross early in 2025, but let's not get too excited just yet. On to the DAX, which it's basically doing has been doing what the FTSE should be doing, which is going to new highs. But we got the top of that rising trend channel there, 20,700. That's our end of year target, while we're above the floor of the latest gap, just above 20,000. RSI a bit overbought now, hasn't been as overbought as this since back in basically March, but hopefully we can continue the recent bull run given the seasonal cheer that normally appears at this time. Moving on to the Dow, which obviously hasn't changed since we looked at it yesterday, but a bit of a ceiling coming in there at 45,000. Break of 45,000 could take us up to a new leg as high as 47,000, which is the upper parallel of that August resistance line projection. On the downside, hoping that we won't get anything lower than 44,000, which is the top of the old channel, which we broke for the first time at the beginning of November. Bearish divergence in the mix there as well, with the RSI higher December highs, but lower RSI for this month, but hoping that 44,000 will kick in as support. Moving on to Bitcoin, where it's all about the 100k level, and here not quite there today. We're trading around that basically intraday, which I suppose is a good thing. There's a resistance line projection there from April around the 102,000 level. Above that, we're looking for up to 120,000 as a best case scenario target by the end of next month. In terms of the RSI configuration, looking a little bit more bearish now with the way that we've had the higher highs, but not really matched that with the RSI there, but rather inconclusive. Still basically in a range between around 91,000 and 102,000, which is not very helpful. Moving on to gold, and here the picture really of a market just hugging the 50-day line there at 2680. Below that, we've got the risk of a test of the floor of the rising trend channel there from February at 2600, but not much to say unless we can get a proper end-of-day close through 2680. Moving on to the stocks, and starting off with Audioboom, where we are holding the £3 level, I suppose, for many involved. Only another 20 quid to go upside to get back on track. But at least while we're above £3 and the top of that rising trend channel from this time last year, looking for up to £3.60 by the end of next month, which hopefully will be now achievable, given the way that we're in a run-up to a golden cross about a week or two away, 50 and 200-day lines rising, and the rally started with a not only a bear trap rebound, but then an unfilled gap to the upside, which has been a decent signal for the stock. Ideally, we stay on the right side of the £2.80 level, whatever happens. Moving on to Atlantic Lithium, and here just the first signs that the stock will eventually will head up and stay up this time. We've got the recent neckline resistance around 14 pence. We've got the 50-day line at 13 pence, above 13, looking for a retest of the 19 pence to 20 pence area by the end of next month. Looks as though the shares have spent enough time consolidating below the September support there at 11.9 pence, like an extended bear trap there for the shares. Moving on to a stock which is looking quite encouraging, just for a change, which is E-Star, and here you can see why. Gap off the low, and then bouncing off the 50-day line there at 1.17 pence. I suppose if you look closely, you can see that 50-day line is now rising, which should mean that we go up and stay up. We've opened at the low, and we're on the high of the day. And the longer we stay above 1.3 pence, the greater the chance for move to 2 pence, which is the top of that rising trend channel base, which we're looking for by the end of next month. On to Goldstone, which is a bit of a punt on the company's CLN, but looks as though the tweet suggesting that the shares were overdone on the downside last week has been correct, down to 0.6 pence. It was a bear trap rebound, and we're now back in that rising trend channel that we drew previously. Floor of the channel there around 0.92 pence, and above that, looking for at least a fill of the gap there up towards 1.5 pence, even if the shares back down after that. On to a market newcomer, which looks as though it's back in business. Genip, and here, or Genip, depending on what you think of the company. Here you can see that we've got broadening triangle there, top of the triangle there at 35 pence, and we're looking for that while we remain above the 50-day line, which we've just crossed at 23 pence. But bear trap rebound from below the old October support there, around 18.5 pence, and nice solid candles in recent days as well. On to Helix, which seems to be regrouping at the floor of this broadening triangle there. It's rather irritating that the shares are down there, but we've got the stock bouncing off that support line there from back in May. The level there around 13.5 pence, and above that, looking for the stock to fill the gap up to 20 or 21 pence, hopefully as soon as the end of this month. Moving along to Light Science, where there's been a flurry of director buying, both the CEO and the non-exec director there, and here, quite rightly, given the decent update that we had, record revenues reported last week, looking for the shares to deliver on the latest bear trap from below 2.25 pence, and head back to the top of the range around 3.5 pence, hopefully by the end of next month. Moving on to Neo Energy Metals, where even though it looked as though there was an RNS about to be delivered any second now on Friday, it didn't happen. It hasn't happened so far today either. But we were looking for 1.3 pence as an initial target there, the November resistance. Above that, on an end-of-day close basis, could be up to as high as 1.9 pence for Neo. I suppose the more the shares rise before any announcement, the better, and ideally they stay above the broken August resistance line there and the 50-day line at 1.05 pence. On to Ondo, where we're running out of targets. In fact, we've had, that's the fourth target we've hit there now at 40 pence, above 40 pence. We're looking for fresh upside there for the shares. Rather boring now, actually. Just keeps going like a machine. And at this stage, probably the best we can say is that we're looking for a target which will be derived from the line I'm just about to draw now, which is going through the old peak there from the summer of last year, heading up to 53 pence. Hopefully we can hit that by the end of next month while we're above 40 pence on Ondo. Moving along to a stock which is perhaps not quite so straightforward, Oxford Biodynamics, and here you'll see why it's obviously been a horrible run to the downside for the shares. Just the first sign that after the full storm that we had last week, with an unfilled gap to the upside off the low, strong candles there as well, so maybe and the shares are having a second go at retesting the peak that we saw last week at 2.2 pence, and could do that by the end of this month. But obviously that's not a situation for widows and orphans, given that it's probably created a few already. Moving on to Synectics, and here just a simple example of a rising trend channel. Here you can see that we've got the shares within a rising trend channel which has been in place since November last year. Top of the channel there, heading towards the 360 pence or 365 pence area, and we're looking for that while we're above November resistance at 320. Nice bounce for the RSI off neutral 50 as well, giving extra momentum and backing the gap to the upside. On to the last two. The first one is StreaksAI, and here we've hit the target, which seemed to be rather unbelievable. The initial target there, 0.67. Above that, looking for a fresh target there as high as 1.5 pence, which is the upper parallel of the triangle there, and hoping for that by the end of next month. Punchy call there, but it's so far been quite a punchy turnaround, as you can see, with those long candles, and mostly candles where you've opened at the low, closed at the high. That shows that somebody is pretty enthusiastic. Speaking of enthusiasm, we've got Vinanz, which has hardly had any red candles in its recent lifetime over the last year, maybe 4 or 5 days in a year. So today's news that the company's raised even more money, or conditionally raised more money, should mean that we get up to 22 pence, hopefully, by the end of next month, while we're above the 50-day line, just under 14 pence. That's it from me today. More updates tomorrow.